speaker today, Kim Hermanson, who some of us spent the weekend with, getting into our right brains. So, and the title of her talk today, I guess this is what happens when you get somebody from Southern Oregon, it's called, Will We Burn in Hell? No, it's called, he told me to make it up.
So
It is
make that
called
mistake.
Opening Our Channels of Creativity. It sounds a little more fun than the first time.
I am honored this morning to introduce someone I just met who I've known for 10 years. How's that? I picked up a book by Kim Hermanson, PhD, in 2009 when it first came out, called Getting Messy. Those of you who know me well wonder why in the world would I need instructions on that? But it's about creativity, it's about becoming a learner, it's about always being in a place of curiosity. It is. And so I said, do you think you might? And she said, well, yeah, I could. And so for several months we've been working it out, and she came up and spent a weekend working with us. About 10 of us started Friday night and dove deep into the metaphor of who we are. And she's here this morning to share her basic teaching, and so we are delighted. And she's, as Drew said, she's speaking on unleashing our creativity. But I really want you to give a warm Eugene welcome to Kim Hermanson.
It has just been a blast for me to be here. So the first song is, I'd like to teach the world to sing, of course. Yeah. And there's this one part in it that we'll go through it, and then it'll be like a scat. And so that's the time where you can be outrageous and play and have fun if you'd like. Let your little kid out over there in the side. We have Drew. He's touched his inner child this weekend. Yeah. So he's probably already there. Play is effective because it takes us beyond the bounds of what the mind thinks is reasonable. So that is why we need to allow ourselves to play in this world. And this is not about perfection. I love being the model of this is not perfection. And I wrote a book called Getting Messy as a permission slip to myself that I could just be myself and I didn't have to be perfect. Yeah, play, have fun, let your voices be loud. And especially if you were like me and you had that negative thinking in your head, you're not okay, you can't sing. We want to hear you today. We want to hear you louder than everybody else. Okay, so, and you guys know the words, okay. I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I want to see the world for once while standing of those that have kept it back. It's so heart-opening. And so the work that I do with metaphor, it's another way of opening your heart. Because metaphor is actually the language of the heart. And I know that in our culture, metaphor has become we think of it more in a more intellectual way, like a tool that poets use or something like that, something that sounds academic. But actually it's visceral. Metaphoric images, the thing that distinguishes a metaphoric image from a regular image is that we can feel it. When we say something like, my world is crashing down, we have both an image of crashing, but we can feel crashing down. If we say, I'm at a crossroads, we get a picture of a crossroads, but we can feel like, what does a crossroads feel like? I feel lit up, I feel depressed, or whatever. It's all, our metaphors just come out of our mouths so unconsciously that we don't really pay attention to them. But actually, metaphor is the basis of our cognitive system. It is a very ancient and old, it's like the old ancient brain. The earliest humans were communicating through gestures and painting pictographs. As babies, we are born, but we don't have fully developed language yet. So what we have are bodies in the world that are bumping into things. And we're learning a sense of under and over and hot and cold. So as young babies, we're learning metaphorically. So we have a metaphoric world of fire and wind and rain and waters, and we have a metaphoric inner compass and learning apparatus. So metaphor is a way to connect with the natural world. And when we go deep, it's visceral, you can feel it, and you can feel metaphoric qualities and energies coming through that aren't of us in our thinking mind. They're something deeper. Carl Jung said that when he has inner visions, it wasn't art, it was the natural world was speaking. So I'm starting to call it see-feel with metaphor. And artists, this is an artistic way of knowing. I always give the example of David Lynch, the director of all those movies. Terry Gross on NPR one time asked him what he was doing when he was making a movie, and he said, I don't know what I'm doing when I make a movie. It's like there's something that's guiding him, but he can't explain it through some sort of rational, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. And my background, before I got my PhD in adult learning, I worked in the computer science field in the field of artificial intelligence. So I was actually literally trying to program computers to think like human beings. And I realized, computers can't really model that artistic, intuitive, under the surface, can't spell it out kind of knowing that we all have. And most of us probably, we'll have even just looking for a home, we might have a list of, I want this, and I need it to be close to my kid's school, and I want a big kitchen, and so I have all these lists, and then we'll walk into what seems like it should be the perfect place, and something doesn't feel right. So that's our intuitive, metaphoric, under the surface. Do I feel heavy here? Do I feel closed in here? Do I feel light? So we're always sensing into that place. And metaphoric images is a way to actually literally go there and uncover that rich, under the surface creative terrain that's underneath your thinking mind. Because our thinking mind when we're stuck, it's because of how we think about something, right? So if we have something that shows up that takes us beyond that place, then we can move into that creative terrain. So I always tell people when I work with them, we're not analyzing images, because when we analyze images, then we're thinking If I give an example, I was going to give this the other day. I went to a therapist, and this is many years ago before I got into metaphoric imagery. But I went into a therapist, and I was trying to decide whether to leave a teaching job or not. And the image that showed up was of me holding on. But the holding on, it didn't, just looking at that image, it didn't tell me whether I should keep holding on or whether I should let go, right? So we have to get into the feeling, the visceral feeling of something, which is not of the mind, which is of the body, and the metaphoric energy of that image. So that's a little bit about the work. And thank you, Linda, for inviting me up here. I live in Berkeley most of the time, but I'm kind of a bit of a gypsy, and I'm part of the Southern Oregon Songwriter Association, so I'm up in Ashland quite often. So it's wonderful to be in Oregon. But what was that? We're supposed to be burning in hell or something like that?
I'm waiting.
We move through the world metaphorically. We're moving through in a light way or a heavy way. And it's not about being light all the time. It's not about being happy all the time. Sometimes we need to rest into grief. Sometimes we just need to rest. I worked with somebody one time and she needed to rest. She needed to stop all her training programs and rest. So it's not about being light and happy and making everything cheerful. But it's about being in tune with whatever is going on with you. Like, because what happens is our minds think, oh, I need to be doing that. And it takes us out of that heart knowing, that visceral, intuitive, one part of me kind of knows I need to be resting right now, and the other part of me is really worried about paying the next bill, and I need to be doing this. Or, so that we get that tug of war between what we know in our bodies and what our mind is telling us. All right, so let's do a little exercise, fun little thing. So I invite you to close your eyes, if you'd like. It's going to be quick and simple and easy. And I would like you to let the first image that shows up be the one that you welcome with open arms and not say, no, I want something better. Because it's not about, we're not analyzing images. We're going for the portal of energy here. So I'm going to give you a sentence stem and see what shows up. When I am at my best, I am like a... Does everybody have something that just popped in? Right. And if you don't, I'd be happy to work with you for a moment. Yes?
Butterfly.
A butterfly, beautiful. So the one thing that's fun to do once you get those images is to notice the qualities of them. Like, what's the first quality, energetic quality of that butterfly that you're noticing?
I think I just saw the word spark.
You sensed it, yeah. Mm-hmm. What I would offer is, well, first of all, butterflies know how to move, right? They're light. Yeah, and they're attracted to beauty. They're going from flower to flower. So, yeah, there's some things there for you. Yeah.
Cloud.
A cloud. Beautiful. Who is that? Who said cloud? Right there. Okay, good. I thought it was you, but I wasn't sure. So cloud, what's the feeling sense of cloud for you right
now? Movement.
Uh-huh.
Light.
Light.
And shadow.
And a shadow. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. I didn't share the story. I shared it this weekend, but one of my first experiences of metaphor was when I was 26, 27, metaphoric knowing. I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with my boyfriend going down the highway at 65 miles an hour, and a car crossed the center line and hit us head on. And I broke my back and I displaced my spinal cord by 40 degrees, so it actually literally looked like this. and they ended up airlifting me to the Mayo Clinic, where they gave me less than 5% chance of walking again. But that night in the emergency room, some angel, I believe, came over, a nurse came over and whispered in my ear and said, imagine that you're floating on a cloud. And that I did, and it shifted me into this place of lightness that I believe is why I'm able to stand here today and talk to you. Yeah, yeah, I know, I'm very lucky. Yeah, so these metaphoric energies, they're real, and they're coming to help us. And they really want to change the world. So yeah, whatever's showing up for you, welcome it. And I'd be happy, since you said you did get an image, I'd be happy to help you for a moment. Would you want that? Would you?
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's just close our eyes. And I'm just going to offer something out to you and just see whether it lands. Okay? What I'm seeing is something that feels very vast but grounded, like for example, a vast terrain like a desert or something like that. How does that land? Something that feels, that's both grounded and vast at the same time.
Just got back from Yuma.
Ah, great.
Yeah. When I closed my eyes, everything was dark and I didn't have an image, just
Yeah.
didn't have anything.
Yeah, and that's completely fine. What I said this weekend when I worked with people is that we're all wired intuitively inside differently. Some people get words. I had somebody get a smell one time. I have a client in India who is always getting kinesthetic body motions when I work, so she's not getting images. So it's completely fine if they don't just pop in. It doesn't mean anything at all. It just means that you're internally wired a little differently. But yeah, go with Keith.
I knew that one.
Cool. Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
When I close my eyes, I look at, it looks like I'm looking at my eyelids, but shapes come up.
Oh, lovely.
And I have spiral energies usually, but today I had a rectangle.
Okay, great. Beautiful.
So I'm thinking it's connectiveness. I don't want to believe it's boxed in.
No, I'd love to clear that up right now because I work with something that I call square energy all the time, which is because us spiritual people, we want the circles and the spirals. But the square energy, which is what you got, it's super good. It's strong, it's sturdy. When you think about a box, like we're not inside the box, we are the box when we do this work. So you are the box. Like a box, you can push on a box and it's not, it can't be moved off its center, right? It's stable, it's sturdy, there's a groundedness, there's a security and safety with that. And so that,
I
and
do feel that right now.
yeah.
Right here now, I do feel solid.
Yeah. And these, it doesn't mean that you are a box, right? It's a metaphoric quality, a metaphoric energy that wanted to come in right now and say, oh, I'm going to give her a little bit of a sturdiness today for whatever reason. And it feels good. I work with square energy all the time. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I have handouts in the back. When you walk through, you'll see a handout that you can pick up along with my books and my newsletter sign-up list. But on that sheet, on that handout, I talk about square energy. And I call on it all the time when I'm overwhelmed, when I need to feel like I have too much to do and not enough time to do it, when I feel like I'm overspending or overeating, or like I want to put some limits on myself, so whatever. So square energy is super useful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Okay. more song. So, okay, yeah, we got it. Amazing technology. And I have my glasses on so I can see my sheet in front of me. Okay, so yes, we metaphorically moved into our best selves. So let's sing our best selves right now.